One of the people testifying was Sue Bonham. Sue Bonham lives in Sissonville. Her house was right there near where the explosion took place, and she barely got out of there with her life. She joins us on Metro News Talk Line. Sue, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Very compelling testimony by you yesterday. I want you to pick up the story from the point where that morning, that day, you're on the phone, you're talking to someone, transacting some business, and then what?
I was trying to schedule an appliance repair. I actually was ready to leave my home at that point in time when the phone call was received to schedule the repair. Otherwise, I would have been leaving my driveway onto Sissonville Drive and would have been involved in the explosion immediately. However, that phone call came, and within seconds, they became my only lifeline for approximately 40 to 45 minutes.
What was your first indication that something had gone horribly wrong? Was it sound? Was it sight? Was it something you felt?
It was something I felt, and then I heard immediately afterwards. I was standing in the middle of my home, and everything, I heard a rumbling, and then everything in my home started shaking and trembling. Just my home was shifting. Things started falling off the walls. And I'm like, ask her to please hold on, that something was really horribly was happening.
What did you think had happened?
At first, I thought maybe it was an earthquake, because, and I remember just looking down at my feet thinking earth was just going to open up at any moment and swallow me because it became so loud and so quick and intense so quickly.
It was, in fact, an explosion of that 20-inch natural gas pipeline. How close is your house to that pipeline?
My stepdaughter's home was next door, just a few feet and a few yards, I should say, and her home was completely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
I was only like 200 yards or so from the actual explosion.
But you say only 200, but 200 yards is a fair distance. But the explosion and the resulting fireball, which continued to burn, was so intense that it threatened you, and it destroyed your home, right?
Yes, it did. Our home is the one that everyone sees on TV that is still standing but heavily destroyed. We are not able to move back into our home because of the destruction, and we are having to move somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Our home was burned down in that exact same location 5 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
And we lost everything at that time as well. And so I really, truly understand what the other people who lost their homes and all their mementos, their belongings, their memories. I know how they truly feel. And I'm so sorry for them.
Sue Bonham is with us from Sissonville, and her home was heavily damaged to the point where it can't be fixed in that explosion and fire from that natural gas line that ruptured. So, Sue, let's go back to, something's wrong. You don't know what is wrong. When did you first become aware that it was probably a gas line explosion, and what did you do after that?
Well, at first, the projectiles missiles started coming through my ceiling, and I dove for cover underneath my dining room table. And then I eventually crawled to a window in the front of my home to see what I could see, from that point of view. And all I could see was the fireball, and it just seemed to, come to me that it has to be a gas line explosion, or a plane has crashed. And
right.
It's on fire, but it was so intense and so high into the sky. It was just huge. That I just felt like it was a gas line explosion.
What did you decide to do then? Now, you're looking out the front. What did you decide to do?
I just peeked out the front window because the front was on fire. The front of my home was on fire. I knew that. And when the projectiles came in, all the heat came in, and that was another reason why I thought it was a gas line explosion. I looked out to the back of my home, and I've seen the vehicles that were parked there, the paint sizzling on them, and the ground was just rumbling and turning. It was moving in waves, and it was like hot springs coming up out of the ground. But I knew I could not. The only place I had to go was to the left out of the back door of my home towards my flower garden and pool area, thinking that if I needed to, I could jump into the pool and stay cool, or not, at least not be burned up.
What was the heat? What was the intensity of the heat at that point, or when you got outside heading toward the garden?
It drove me back inside the house the first attempt. The second attempt, though, I knew I had to go, that my home it was going to explode at any moment, possibly. So I just ran, and I just had to do it. I had to face it. There was no other choice for me, or at least that's the way I felt. When I did come out of my back door to head left, I looked to the right, and I saw my stepdaughter's home on fire at that time.
What's going through your mind during all this?
Well, besides thinking maybe it was the end of the world, but looking up into the sky and I'm thinking if it's the end of the world, surely the sky's not that blue in one part of the world anyway. And I just knew I was frantic, wondering who was home, was any of the family home, were any of the families home. I knew my next door neighbor's home across the road from me, the McMillans. I could hear their home exploding. And I wondered, I knew she's a nurse that stayed home, and I was so afraid for her life as well. But I could tell from my point of view that it was kind of centered in that one location. And I was just thankful that, it was a school day.
Yeah, the kids were gone.
My granddaughter was not at home.
Sue Bonham is with us from Sissonville, and she was in her house when that gas line exploded on December 11th at Sissonville and just barely got out. And you were eventually rescued by a couple of firemen, but this all goes on for about, almost an hour, 45 minutes?
45 minutes, yes. I looked at the thermometer that I had near the pool, the outdoor thermometer, and it went to 120 and burst.
Oh, my gosh.
The firemen came after about 45 minutes. They had gotten word that I was trapped, and they tore into the fence. They tore the fence down near a location where I was at. I had thrown my purse over the fence to mark my location, and they found me that way, and they came in through the fence and got me. It took me to a triage area.
And you suffered from smoke inhalation, correct? Other than that, you were okay?
Yes, I did. Yes.
How are you, Sue? This is a remarkable and traumatic story. How are you doing now?
Well, I think I'm doing well. I'm the type of person who feels I've been through so much in my life that I know all I have to do is just keep going forward. And that's what, my belief is as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other, everything will fall into place and we'll be all right. My husband and I have become very emotional over this, but, we are working through it together, and we have found a home to move to. We have not, we have a contract on a home anyway. Mm-hmm. We're just looking forward to trying to get into our new home and becoming more comfortable with that. And, of course, we double-checked that there's no gas lines nearby.
I understand. Yesterday's hearing, and your testimony was lead-off testimony, and, again, very dramatic story. The hearing yesterday focused on gas line safety, and I know you're not an expert in that, although you're an eyewitness to what can happen. Do you have any thoughts or observations about pipeline safety after your experience and after yesterday's hearing?
Well, I was always aware that those gas lines were there, but I always felt, they've been there since the 1960s. Surely, they keep those monitored well, that if there was a problem, that there was a central location somewhere that an alert was received. I always felt that they were under control. I've learned, that there are some, inadequacies there now that I had hoped were in place. And I hope with everything that's gone on with this explosion, the awareness that, every gas company will make the public aware of what those where those lines are located and what they should do in case of an emergency, in case there was an explosion. But I would also like to know that they know instantly that when there is a problem, that from monitoring those lines, and that they send someone who's professionally trained to handle any situation. It kind of floored me that I was 10 to 15 minutes into my ordeal whenever they first were alerted that there was a problem.
I mean, it took a while.
That was a huge concern of mine.
And it took a while after that to shut off the valve to stop the flow of gas. Sue Bonham of Sissonville, we're certainly glad you're okay. I appreciate you coming on and telling your story, and take good care.
We thank you very much. Take care.